Hi, my name is Susan Doyle from Box Media and I will be the moderator today. I would like to welcome you to Lean Construction Ireland's 19th webinar, the topic of which is the application of Lean in the building of timber frame buildings. If you have a question, please type in the question box and we will consolidate and ask James and Peter in the second half of the webinar. If there are any questions that we don't get answered during the webinar, we will follow up by email afterwards. The agenda will be as follows: opening introduction by Jason Casey, presentation by James and Peter, followed by questions and answers. I will now hand you over to Jason.
Good afternoon, everybody. You're all very welcome to today's webinar. My name is Jason Casey. This webinar is being brought to you by Lean Construction Ireland in conjunction with our media and communications partner, Box Media. For today's webinar, the title is The Application of Lean in the Building of Timber Frame Buildings, which I'm really looking forward to hearing about. The speakers for today are James McNabb and Peter McCaughey. James is an industrial engineer with over 35 years industry experience, specialising in value add and strategic growth programs to help companies become more stable, innovative and profitable. His core focus is implementing operations excellence initiatives using lean principles in organisations, supporting companies to develop products, processes and services that will strategically develop their company. His experience includes works in construction, engineering, concrete, timber and service environments such as architects, surveyors and civil engineering. James is an active director in Team BDS Limited, Trade Partners International Limited and Zygnetics Limited. He also is a board member of a number of Irish SMEs. Peter has a long career in the construction industry, which includes periods in every aspect of business that he now manages, commencing with his on-site work over 40 years ago, in which he completed a CIOB site management program. He then worked through design, surveying and project management aspects of the building business until he moved to IGM Timber Engineering Limited in the mid-80s. Here he acted as development manager in the company's export drive into America and then developed a startup company in Southeast England. Through his skills attained in both research and development programs at Stanford University, England, and a senior management program in IMI, he has been pivotal in the continuous product development and process re-engineering that has helped position the company as the industry leader in the sector. During the 90s, he became general manager and led the company to a period of annual significant growth, having 3 production facilities between Ireland and the UK. Peter was appointed Managing Director of IGM Timber Engineering Limited in 2008. He was also a director of the TQBA, which is the Timber Quality Bureau of Ireland, and is currently chairman of ITFMA. I will now pass you over to James and Peter to start the presentation.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, Susan. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is James McNabb, and Peter McCaughey is here beside me.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Our presentation will take about 25, maybe 30 minutes. We want to give you some background on the industry, look at the IGM process, and then talk about the lean projects involved mainly on the on-site construction side of the business. And then we want to take you through what were the key outputs or the emerging outcomes from those projects, and then deal with any questions and answers that may emerge. Peter's going to take us through the history and the background to the industry.
The IGM was established in 1965, being as a joinery part of a contracting company, and over the years it has become more specialised. And as you can see from the screen, we discontinued kitchens, joinery, internal joinery and so forth at different periods to become more specialised in the structural elements that we were producing. And since the recession, we now do 100% of what we manufacture. We also erect on site as part of our strategy. The industry itself has grown substantially in Ireland. I'd say going back to the early 90s, it was probably less than 1% of the housing market, and currently is estimated at sitting around the 25% mark, and has the potential to increase to say 35 to 40% over a few years. The regulation that changed during the recessionary period, which say was driven by thermal performance in buildings and so forth, has helped timber frame increase this market share, as indeed has the labour market. And we all know that there's a substantial shortage of skilled labour at the moment. So the more that we can bring into off-site and reduce the actual labour on site, or indeed even de-skill the labour on site, the higher quality product that we're going to end up having finished. So you can see here from the photograph, we had 3 factories prior to the recession. We disposed of 2 of them during the recession and brought us back to just our head office in Monaghan. We're sitting here in about 10 acres. We're currently producing around about 4,000 square meters of building per week, and have our capacity, while being stretched a little bit, we have planned to bring that up to between 6,000 and 7,000 per week. A few photographs of the production facility itself, with production lines for making wall panels, so that it is all controlled from the design office. So whatever is designed gets fabricated, and most of what we do there is handling equipment for safety. On site then, these components can get fairly substantial. As you can see in the top left hand corner, we normally now will advocate the making up of the full roof on the ground and lifting it into place, mainly from a health and safety perspective. Roof panels, substantial, up to about 12 meters long, again to help with health and safety. We've done work in quite a few places. We've done student accommodation apartments. These buildings are in the UK. Residential developments, which is our mainstay business. Duplex units and some terraced housing as well fall within our portfolio. There's some mixed development done in the mid-2000s in Dublin.
So for IGM, and having come through a major recession, and then looking at the potential where it could go, there were questions that would have to be asked as to, well, why bother with lean manufacturing? Why bother with lean business? And for any organization pursuing it, the hard question that they should be asking, well, what will it do? Will it improve our business? Will it make us more profitable? Will it help us actually grow? Will it make us more competitive? And those are the hard questions that any business would need to ask. But IGM asked it in a particularly strong way because of the tough history they had from the period 2006 to 2010. But matching that is not all about what IGM wants, it's really about what the customer wants. And they did a lot of work in seeking, well, what exactly does the customer look for? And it became very clear that the customer wanted their problems had to be solved completely. Don't waste their time, provide exactly what they want when they want it, deliver value where they want it, and supply value, in a way that's suitable for them, and essentially reduce the number of decisions that the customer needs to make to get their problem solved as well. So essentially, you're not just providing a product and a service, you're also managing their problems to a large degree as well. The company embedded a lean management thinking type program because although it's a bottom-up process, for IGM, it had to come from the top down as well, just to get the culture moving. The first step was really specifying the value of the customers and to map that value stream to see, well, what are all the things that IGM were doing that the customer really didn't want to pay for or wouldn't pay for. And they created a model where they would flow out onto sites and a pull from sites that would make the site construction side faster, quicker, and easier. And what is crucial to it, and it'll come out in this presentation, is the whole involvement and empowerment of people all the way along the line. So although Peter was as MD was a major driving force in it, there's probably about 60 other people in the company that were involved in really embedding lean processes at their own point of work or their own workstation. And then everything moves on to continuous improvement. So everything here gets split into projects, and then it's continuously improve. And that's part of the embedded culture now. Another big ticket they brand here is the whole concept of working smarter, not harder. So less waste going in, more value coming out, and everybody would buy into that. And everybody, once you're avoiding threatening people's jobs, once they saw the common sense approach in it, everybody bought into it after a period of time. But it really is a structured approach to applying common sense. Again, a major part of lean in this environment, especially in the service element, within engineering, within specification, costing, and out on site in the erection side, the whole elements of pursuing waste is crucial. So for example, defects, reworking drawings is a waste, getting wrong specifications, getting quality wrong, getting damaged product being delivered. The whole movement of trucks to and from locations, half loads, back loads, or delivering shortages. We would have found some months ago that some of our transportation costs is really due to excess shortages going out onto site. The overproduction of products or producing the wrong products at the wrong time, waiting for instructions from customers, waiting for instructions from engineers. All of those things were waste, and we tried to get a sense of the volume and level of those waste items at every point in the process. And the big ticket item up on top is the whole unexploited innovation waste, where essentially people's time and effort was wasted, and we weren't using the brains of the people closest to the process. Now that has changed significantly.
Yeah, the IGM process we try to simplify because it is rather complicated. But let's say we start at the quotation stage, and between quotation stage and order, we have a lot of interaction with our customers, looking at the value engineering aspect in buildings. I mean, is there cost savings for the customers by tweaking the design in some regard, and then getting approval from the architect for some of our suggestions. The overall plan for the development. Now, we have become what would be the critical path in the construction process for housing, outside of having the groundworks far enough ahead of us. And we normally work with our customers to agree a program for construction, and that allows them to keep labour on site and keep the flow on site, so that they're not losing labour. And as we all know, they go off to other developments, and getting them back again in this environment is very difficult. So when we run through the whole process between our architectural plans, which is a collaboration really with the architects, we need to get approval then from them to manufacture. From that, we go into designing the components of the building, which is the walls, floors, and roofs. And an independent structural engineer will produce the calculations for us. From that point, then we go through manufacture, delivery, and our erecting process now forms 3 parts, which we have a sign-off for each. Part A being the structure of the building, part B being the first fix, and part C being any just bits like an extension that we have to go back on. And ultimately then the customer gets the ancillary certs. So it's the whole program then is fully managed from start to finish, where we take it from quotation and hand over the certification to the customer. To do this, we had to listen to the customer to see what it is they actually required. That's why I mentioned this collaboration, because you have to be very open and honest with each other and discuss that there are things that has to happen. For example, previously, a customer would look for, say, a number of houses, 10 in one go, and then have no work for their men for a couple of months. Whereas now we have the open conversation as to how they are going to streamline their business and control their costs by utilizing a lesser number of resources for the full period of time, but not done sporadically.
So the lean program within IJM, there was a number of manufacturing-led initiatives that would have started approximately 2011, 2012, 13. They would have led on to some major overhead and engineering lean initiatives on the whole of planning, accounting, organization structure. And then there's the on-site type work or related to on-site work, and that's where the webinar is going to focus on.
As part of this process, I mean, you're really creating partnerships with all of the stakeholders, starting with your suppliers. Whereas normally, as you see, everyone knows the way you deal with suppliers is all about price, price, price. And sometimes talking price, price, price isn't the most cost-effective way of getting your materials. You need to have, for example, you guaranteed supply agreements and so forth. So to do that, you need to bring them into the team model and offer more transparency as to what your requirements are. On-site partners, very critical to the business that we now do, in that a third of the people that we have are on-site partners. And in order that they have to make a profit, they're in business, they have to make a profit. So we feel now that our position is to help them make a profit, but yet be able to do it at a cost that we can provide the customer with the product and value for money. Again, there's some change required from the customer side, because that was very much price driven, and as I said, erratic planning and so forth. So there is more upfront discussions and a coordinated approach to planning the whole development, and again, more openness with regards to pricing and how we are adding value for them. So as I say, it's a win-win for all, and you have to look at it that way, and it will succeed for everyone then. So going back to before 2015, we really didn't have a very consolidated vision as to where we were going. You know, customers were tending to pull us all over the place rather than us having a very good plan. We now would work on a program. While we have longer projections, we tend to work now on a 13-week program, where we agree with the customers and have a fixed program for the next 4 weeks, penciled for the 4 weeks after that, and then projected for 5 weeks after that. That we found gives everybody the flexibility to make the changes that's necessary when things go wrong on site, as they do, but it still keeps us all focused on one objective, and that's the program.
So in the whole area of health and safety compliance, as one example, and quality standards, you know, before 2015, there was a number of standards that we were trying to operate to. But when we did a process evaluation on it, essentially what it came down to, it wasn't adding value. We were just compliant from a paperwork perspective. We re-engineered the whole process, and the current model, you know, essentially is increasing value each month. The cost of quality is coming down. Health and safety issues are coming down. So we're now getting value out of something that was a major overhead. We're now getting a value out of it. And the future state we just on this project was to take to a point where we'd head towards near zero defects and incidents, which in the construction side, especially out on site, heading with a target of zero incidents is a major target, and we don't know anybody who's actually getting there. So again, that's just one example where the company has taken what was a major overhead cost that wasn't adding value and turned it around to actually making savings. At the end of this webinar, we'll summarize those savings in one slide, but this one was a major one because it transcends all elements of the business. And again, with the multiple level of standards that we're operating with, we have created one integral model for all our systems to bring it together. So as one department manages the admin side of it, and employees at shop floor level, once they comply with process or on site, once they comply with a process or procedure, they're going to keep all our standards up to date. So we're not dealing with 10 different standards, 10 different set of rules. We've modified into one integrated model. And the other one is the whole kind of culture change, and KPIs and systems are good, but if we don't get the people with us, we'll tend not to get the results. So I think within IGM, they really created a teamwork culture, and it was built around, in this case, their quality management system. You know, communication is highly rated, and we specifically will talk about that later on. Key performance measures keep us focused, but IGM will never use that as a whip in any form. It's just kind of showing us what the goalposts are, and if for some reason they need to be changed, they can be changed collectively. Feedback and complaints from any source, from an internal or external customer, they get rated immediately and root cause is pursued immediately. Going back a number of years ago, issues would come in and there were many issues, but they could get left on a desk for hours, days, or weeks and not get responded to. Whereas now there are immediate actions, there are immediate responses. And if nothing else, it may be to go back to a customer and say, we're going to deal with that and we'll come back with a clear response to you by Monday morning before 10 o'clock. So nothing is ever left hanging out there. We encourage a model where problems are exposed, not hidden. It was given to me this week in the shop floor on inventory, where it's become the guys in the warehouse and are involved in logistics that they got responsibility for inventory, and their targets there is now 100% accuracy, and they're at 99.9. They don't need KPIs for it. It becomes such a part of their role in life that they would see it as a failure by not achieving that, and it's self-managing by default. Again, as I mentioned, the blame culture is totally eliminated and totally discouraged. And again, this is a cycle that goes on in every project, but the company has really changed the culture, and that's been led from the top. It would also make the point that probably these initiatives started within IGM around 2000, and the company went through significant growth before the downturn. So in the resurrection of the company and its activities and the new upturn that it's in, it was able to build almost greenfield thinking into the new situation, which is a great advantage as well. So the culture has been established from get-go. The measures then, Peter.
Yeah, just some of the measurables that we've had success with is so pre-2015 we were looking at about a 6, 7, could even be 8 week lead time from design freeze to getting to site. That's now down fairly fixed at a 4-week cycle. Our inventory turn was 8, it's now 14, which is excellent, which means we're turning our stock over more than once a month. The accuracy, as James said, 99.5. Someone said it's 100, but we'll say nothing can be 100. There's always room for improvement. Our internal budget planning cost is now at 98% efficient. Construction compliance was always 100, as we have been. Our health and safety incidents are down. On-time deliveries went from 92 to 98%. And the big thing is that our output per employee has gone up by 28%. And at the same period, we've reduced our overhead by 29%. So our overall capacity has increased by plus 200%. So that's all on the bottom line, and that's really what lean is about, is making sure that transfers to the bottom line.
Just to add to those the KPIs and those measurables, the company is currently doing a strategic plan for the next 5 years, and it will at least double its volume of activity. Because there are KPIs in place and measures, we know exactly when we double throughput what capacity we need, what equipment, what facilities, and what margins we should expect. Whereas prior to this, and with many organizations, when they don't have clear measures in place, other than possibly accounts, financial accounts, but without clear measures in production or in operations, it's very hard to project forward what's going to happen. But now we can do it with a level of confidence that's 97, 98% plus. So how lean was actually rolled out within the organization, it starts with training and development. And we would always say that it's not just training. You need to have people doing simple projects as part of training. So a number of people got trained on lean at various levels. So there's black belt, green belt, and introductory level. We don't use the word yellow belt here. Management got training as well in parallel, but in the whole area of communication, teamwork, leading teams, organizing, and it's more on the soft skills side in that situation. The leadership training was delivered to a number of managers, but the company is very lucky in the sense that the Peter, the MD, is a natural leader anyway, so that came pretty easily. The other one, the company had embarked on a process to implement an ERP system to tie all the processes together in the new model, or the new framework. So again, there was an extensive training program rolled out on the whole ERP element of the business. And there was the concept of business process training for people as well, You know, how do we make things simpler? How do we automate things to get people's mindset looking at improvements? Central again to this is communication. So there's a clear meeting schedule in place. There's a clear communication process of daily, weekly, and monthly activities. There's transparency throughout the organization. So if there's problems in the company, it's everybody's problem. And there's a win-win culture coming. So for example, a number of weeks ago, the company would have taken in all its on-site construction partners and done some development programs with them at the cost of the company. So it's really working with its partners, but it's providing trading out to its partners as well, which for this industry is unique and is probably ahead of its time, but it's getting incredible results. Again, communication on the upside and the downside is important. And in that communication, you build trust with all the stakeholders. And again, measurable projects, clear targets, clear measures, and keep it simple. And, you know, common sense prevails. Whatever happens in the construction side, when you get to building, if you don't apply common sense, you've got major problems. So believe me here, if there's too much theory in our process or in the lean, it'll get thrown out very quickly. When people see that it makes common sense to their role or their process or their activity, there's a buy-in almost immediately. So the whole engagement and communication cycle with the resources at different levels. On a daily basis, there are shop floor meetings, there's cross-functional improvement teams, and these improvements teams start and finish. So a project can start here on how to get stock more accurate on the trucks for the site. It'll have 1 or 2 months and then we'll finish. But then there's daily activity meetings that will look at continuous improvement within an area or within another aspect of the business that goes on a functional basis every day, every week. There's weekly meetings at an operations level, at a business unit level, and there's operations planning meetings. And again, these meetings can be, we try and have these meetings to be completed within 30 minutes. They may go on, they could be 15 minutes, but people are trained to come to the meeting, come prepared, have your information, focus on clarity of your message, focus on communicating, and focus on getting a solution. Meetings cannot be a dumping ground. They're a reporting ground where you can get team input to issues. There's monthly management meetings as well. And again, the KPIs and the measures that are in the business, they will float up. There will be a relationship between those KPIs from daily meetings all the way up as far as the monthly management meeting. So there's no disconnect in it. And then there's quarterly, more extensive departmental meetings. There's business unit manager face-to-face meetings, and there's communications to many. Again, we see communication and we've learned from it. If we over communicate, it's better than under communicating. And the company has an annual performance review process, which is more personalized at an individual level, established budgets for the year. And again, outputs from that are communicated appropriately to all levels. So we don't want to mislead. For example, very critical financial data isn't going to be provided to everybody in the audience, but elements that relates to them and their daily work will be relayed to everybody in the company. And what you're trying to do is to create a security for people in the company and a security in their future, so they're buying into the concept where the company is at. Whereas, you know, pre-2000 or pre-2005, there was a little bit of mushroom culture where they wouldn't be told everything, as happens in most companies in the country. And then every 2 years, can happen every 12 months, as is happening at the moment, there's a strategic review where we look at the business plan, the investment, and the growth program.
I mentioned before that, you know, from we worked our way out of recession, that we've become very focused on a specific strategy for the business. Everyone within the business has bought into that, and we looked at lean, and instead of looking inwardly at ourselves, we looked outwardly to our customers first, and looked at what lean in our business would mean for them, and we reversed it then back into our business. And that to us is the key for the business that we are in. It's not to say that it's the key for everyone.
So I think that's about 24 minutes on the presentation. We'll take answers and questions now if you want, if you haven't gone to sleep or you haven't headed out to the sun. And I'll hand it over to Jason and Susan now.
Thank you very much, man. I think anybody that's went out to the sun has lost out. That was a fantastic presentation, guys. So well done. There are a few questions in here. I'll just start off with one that came in from Michael here. Over what period did the change process happen?
We used I suppose we actually, as James mentioned earlier, we started this probably in early 2000, but it was very, very slow to get traction when we were in I suppose a market that was growing. We were all busy in the mid 2000s, and it proved very difficult with the culture that was here at the time. But when we went through the recessionary period, we went from our turnover virtually disappeared. We just about survived it. So as James said, we nearly had a green field to get going again. Now, we were very fortunate that the company now has most of the management that were here back in the 2000s. They came back to us after going off and doing other things during that period. But they very quickly bought into the concepts that we were putting to them. And indeed, I would say they drove them themselves. We just give them the concepts and they actually took them on board and drove them.
Okay, that's great. Another question here in from Debbie. What people challenges did you face and how did you overcome them?
With people, I mean, you know, we're all in business with the same focus, and it's about having enough communication and being very open. Everyone isn't going to agree, so you need to be open and have that discussion and get buy-in. It's communicating to the point that people buy in.
Okay. We have another question here from Aidan. What effort was required internally for this process?
As I say, I'm somewhat repeating myself on this because it was a change in culture, and it was just it was trying at every opportunity to over communicate. So you're giving the same people the same message over and over again, maybe in different formats. But I would say more so, James showed you models there of meetings earlier on, and you could look at that and go, God, you must be doing meetings all the time. They are not necessarily all formal meetings. Meeting in the corridor, a 2-minute conversation over a cup of coffee, something like that. You just need to keep working on it.
I think on that as well, Jason, there would have been and there still are, there are 2 lean champions within the organization, and 80% of their time is working on lean, 20% is on other stuff. So they're continuously driving improvements, but they don't see it as a totally different job. It's aligned to getting the business running well. So although getting things up and moving for the first 6 or 12 months can be a little bit of an overload on people, then it becomes a natural part of their life, their job. But typically in any 1 week, you know, as a benchmark for you, there could be 20 to 25 hours of time in total focused on getting improvements in place. But when the improvements are delivering kind of 500 to 2 million savings over a number of years, they're well worth it. So it's resource light in terms of returns.
Yeah, so would you see that as a critical part of the lean deployment, I suppose, to have a lean champion that's pretty much full-time dedicated to the cause, if you want to call it that?
Well, yes, the risk in having, the risk in having the lean champion have everything on their back is other people won't take responsibility. So around here, the model was a lean champion would become a facilitator, coordinator, but the real improvements were done by 20, 30 or 40 other people who drove changes in their own areas. You know, but it's about spreading it. You don't create a lean department or a finance department independent to the day-to-day business. It has to be embedded in the day-to-day business.
Very good.
I think the main thing that in lean is that everything you look at, you have to say, why do we do this? And you have to get everyone thinking that way. And then in turn, you're looking then at, see, is there a more efficient way of doing this? We had, with the BCAR system, now in play. I mean, that was one of the big overhead challenges that everyone thought was coming down the track. I mean, we've looked at that and we've got a lean process for that. That means that we handle that on a day-to-day basis without really incurring any additional overhead.
Okay, very good. We have another question here from Gary. Does the timber frame operation offer more opportunity for lean than the traditional stick build construction project, or what scope of traditional construction project offers the best return for lean?
I probably would take that. Virtually every construction project has potential to improve in terms of lean. Now, traditional stick build, I'm not too sure what that is, but if someone's doing a volume of house and stick build, then they should really be doing a factory-based timber frame model, and that would be lean in that element of it. But lean is about organization and improving the organization and improving, how you invoice, how you keep your records. That you're really about adding value rather than adding cost. So it's applicable in any environment. But naturally, as that environment gets bigger, the rewards and the returns are bigger. So it's more difficult in a 2 or 3 person operation than a 100-person operation, because it's harder to improve at that smaller level.
Okay, I do have a couple more questions, but if anybody else that's on the webinar wants to ask a question and is unaware of the process, there's a questions box on your webinar tab there, so feel free to type in a question that we can ask. As I say, I have a couple more here coming in anyway. So one of them is, how difficult did you find to get buy-in from the whole company? So top to bottom, I suppose, or was there any challenges in convincing people to get on board with what you were trying to do?
Well, I suppose I was bought into the process from early 2000, and during that period, yes, I found it very difficult changing the culture. But I was appointed managing director in 2008, so I had a little bit more clout, I suppose, at that point. And we went through a restructuring of the business. So as part of that restructuring, we built in lean thinking with everyone as part of the restructuring, which happened sort of from 2013 through, and is still ongoing today.
Very good. I suppose that the next question is linked in some way to that. I suppose what were your grand challenges in growing the business, or I suppose it's in growing the business in general?
In growing the business in general, I suppose, look, every business as we've come out of the recession in the construction industry, funding was probably the biggest issue. And I must say now, because we had a very open level, we were very open with our customers. We all worked together basically to get the finished product for both our manufacturing and on-site erecting, and for their program to satisfy their funders as well. So that was probably the biggest challenge.
I think, Jason, on that, going forward, there's very clear vision on where the market is, and there is a leniency towards timber frame, which is good for a whole range of reasons. But the biggest challenge in the growth at the moment is getting access to resources at all levels, skilled resources, even direct labor. That is the biggest challenge at the moment.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I suppose to lead on from that, as we all know, during the recession, the young people did not move towards the construction sector. As a result, now I think all companies are seeing shortages in engineers, architects. We have quite a few design staff, and I'd say that's probably the area that is most challenging for us.
Okay, I think we're out of questions there. Again, thank you very much, guys. That was a fantastic webinar. Certainly very insightful, and something a little bit different than what we've had before. I think that's the first webinar we've had that's been totally linked to house building, which is great. It's something new for Lean Construction Ireland, and hopefully you'll inspire some other people within the similar parts of the industry to get involved, because from where we're sitting, it looks certainly that there's a lot of value in it. I suppose just to lead on, the next webinar we have is taking place in July. We'll send out information shortly via LinkedIn on our social media and our distribution list. I would also like to thank Box Media, our media and communications partner, for facilitating this webinar. And again, thanks again to James, Peter, and from myself on behalf of Lean Construction Ireland. And you can follow the Lean Construction Ireland on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and our website, which will also host this webinar over the coming days for anybody that has missed it, or that you feel would get some value of it. It'll be up on the website over the next couple of days. So have a safe rest of the day and enjoy the sun and be lean. Thank you.
Thank you.